Are you constantly exhausted, frequently injuring yourself, always getting sick, and always hungry? These are all signs that you're not getting enough dietary fat. In today's episode, I'm going to explain all the benefits of this misunderstood macronutrient, the best sources, and how to easily get it into your diet. If you're ready to boost your performance and are ready to stop feeling like you're starving all day, you'll want to listen to today's episode. So grab something to take notes with and let's go. Tired of feeling exhausted after training? Confused about how to fuel your body without all the food rules? Welcome to Female Sports Nutrition, where I'll help you fuel strong, build muscle, and perform your best, all while breaking free from diet culture. I'm Kristen, a sports dietitian, trainer, and Jesus lover, and I'm here to help you fuel with freedom. Lace up your shoes, grab that smoothie, and let's jump in. Are you ready to fuel your body, build muscle, and boost your performance without having to diet all at the same time? Are you looking for a tribe of positive, motivating, uplifting women that will help you when you're struggling? Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition. Inside, you'll get meal prep and meal planning hacks, sports nutrition guidance without selling your soul to diet culture, accountability, and a supportive group to share your wins with. What are you waiting for? Join the Female Sports Nutrition Facebook group and get a free gift while you're there. And don't forget to invite your girlfriends. Fat is probably one of those foods that most female athletes are afraid of when they are struggling with underfueling. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the myths that I have heard over the years, and we're going to bust some myths real quick. First is eating fat will make me fat. And the reality is that fat is not going to make you fat. Eating too many calories in excess of your energy expenditure will contribute to fat gain. But fat is not specifically going to make you fat. It is true that fat does contain more calories per gram than protein and carbohydrates do. But again, you have to eat your entire diet in excess in order to gain body fat. Number two is that fat is bad and I shouldn't eat it, or my diet isn't clean if I am including fat. Here's the deal. Fat is an essential macronutrient. We're going to talk about what all the reasons are that you need to be including dietary fat in your diet today, but just know that it is extremely important. It is one of the 3 macronutrients, which means that you have to eat it every single day in order for your body to survive. I grew up in the 90s, and there was that trend of low fat. And so that's kind of what I grew up with, thinking that fat was bad and you really shouldn't eat a lot of it. And you should also be stick skinny and have no muscle on you as a female, which really led to a lot of disordered eating for me, which I do not want for you. So we're going to break this down today as to why you need fat. And I hope by the end of this episode, your view on fat will be changed and you will understand why you need fat and where you'll get it from. The last myth is all fats are the same. And this is not true. All fats are really not created equal. There are several different types of fats, like monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats, which are beneficial for you, for your overall health and your athletic performance. Saturated fats and trans fats can contribute to health problems, but at the same time, having some saturated fat in your diet is a good thing. So we don't want to completely eliminate those types of fats in our diets. And there's also fats that come from fish, which is going to contain a completely different set of nutrients that you need on a daily basis. I'm going to talk to you about what role dietary fat plays in a female athlete's diet so that you can understand the importance of this macronutrient. So number one is an energy source. Fat is an energy source. It's actually a secondary energy source to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is your body's primary energy source, and fat's going to be a secondary energy source, which means that your body's going to kind of flip-flop back and forth between carbohydrates and fats, depending on what type of activity that you are doing. So when you are doing more of an endurance type sport, your body's actually going to be burning more fat than it is with something that's more high intensity. But at the same time, that does not mean that it's going to completely switch off that light switch to burning fat if you are doing high intensity work. That is totally not true. And your body will actually burn off body fat during that time if you are doing high intensity work. I don't want you to think that if you are weightlifting that you can't eat fat. That's not true at all. So carbohydrates are going to get digested and utilized a little bit more slowly than carbohydrates do. So it's going to help to kind of time release your energy out of your food, which we definitely need. Number 2 is hormone production. So this is especially important for females. Fats are essential for the production of hormones like testosterone and cortisol, which are really important for muscle growth and repair and overall recovery. Now, you're probably thinking, as a female athlete, why in the world am I worried about testosterone? But here's the deal. Even females have testosterone in their body. You need testosterone in your body. You need that to build muscle. You need it to recover. So I'll tell you a quick story about me. If you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that I have an autoimmune condition called Addison's disease, where my body has attacked my adrenal glands and my adrenal glands don't work anymore. As a result, my body does not, or my adrenal glands does not produce DHEA. And in females, DHEA actually gets converted over into testosterone. So what that means for me is that my body does not produce any testosterone. So I actually have to take DHEA to make sure that I am getting testosterone into my body. Otherwise, I really struggle with building muscle and also with recovery from my training sessions. Number 3 is cellular health. So fat is a key component of your cell membranes, which helps to maintain your cell structure and function. And this is particularly important for your muscle tissue, believe it or not. So your cells, all those little tiny cells that are in your body, all have a layer of fat around them. Number 4 is vitamin absorption. Fat aids in the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are vital for just bodily functions and overall health. Vitamin D is probably the most important out of that for sports performance. And I have a blog on this that I'm going to link below for you down in the show notes so that you can check it out. Vitamin D, even though we say it's a vitamin, it's actually a hormone, and you need to have fat in your diet in order for you to absorb it and maintain it in your body. Number 5 is muscle recovery and growth. So this is kind of going back to what I was saying with fats being utilized more so for endurance type athletes. Fat is not directly fueling high intensity exercise like carbohydrates do, but fats indirectly support muscle recovery and growth by contributing to hormone balance and cellular health. So you need to have fat in your diet in order to increase your sports performance and recover from your training sessions, which is part of increasing your sports performance. Number 6, which is last but not least, is overall health. Fats are essential for various bodily functions, including your immune system. They are a source of essential fatty acids that the body cannot produce themselves. Plus, this kind of goes back to the hormone thing, but it's also part of your health. Being a female, we menstruate. And guess what? You need to have fat in your diet in order for that process to happen because of all the hormones that is involved with menstruation. So let's talk about the different types of fats. There are 4 different types of fats. So there's monounsaturated fats and there's polyunsaturated fats. So monounsaturated fats are going to be found in things like olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, and these fats can really help to reduce inflammation and improve heart health. So think of things that are coming from plants, plant sources of fats. These are going to be your monounsaturated fats. Next up are polyunsaturated fats, and these are also a healthy fat for your body. These are going to be liquid at room temperature, and they're going to be further divided into omega-3 versus omega fatty acids. So omega-3s are found in fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel, those types of things. And you need those because your brain is actually mostly fat, and it's mostly DHA. And DHA is an essential part of your brain, which is why you have now seen in baby formula that they are adding DHA to the baby formula because they need that for brain health. And this is the same thing for you. You need to have omega-3 fatty acids in your diet so you can get DHA, EPA, and ALA. EPA is another omega-3, ALA is another omega-3, but you're getting that mostly from plant sources. So think like flax seeds and walnuts. So you need to make sure that you are getting a good amount of omega-3s because in your standard American diet, we are getting an overabundance of omega-6 fatty acids, which are coming from things like vegetable oils and peanut oils and things along those lines. And we tend to get this out of whack balance of too much omega-6 to omega-3. Really, we need to have more omega-3s in our diet. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, how you can actually do that. Next up is saturated fat. Saturated fat is coming from animal sources. So think like fat on steak, or if you're having hamburgers or cheese or eggs, those are all going to contain saturated fats. A little bit of saturated fat in your diet is perfectly fine and needed, but at the same time, you can't have a ton of it. So if you are having a high protein diet, which is completely fine, you want to make sure that you are not having the highest fat meats available. And you also want to make sure that you are not having your standard feedlot meats either. So what I mean by that is if you go to the grocery store and you just buy, regular pork or beef, something that is not pastured or grass-fed, you are going to get a much higher amount of saturated fat. Also, you're going to get a much higher amount of omega-6 fatty acids in your diet. Whereas if you were to have more grass-fed beef, pork, free-range eggs, pastured eggs, that type of thing, you're going to be getting more omega-3 fatty acids. Last up is trans fats, and trans fats are basically a man-made fat. It's by taking an oil that was liquid at room temperature at one point in time and then pumping a bunch of hydrogen ions in there so that it is now solid at room temperature. So think of things like Crisco. That is a perfect example of a trans fat. There has been, this whole movement over the past decade to try and get trans fats out of our foods. Really, there's a lot less of them in our food than there was 10 plus years ago. But still, what you would want to look for on the food label is anything that says trans fats in there. You don't want to eat those. Or if you see in the ingredient list hydrogenated oil or partially hydrogenated oil, it's still going to be trans fat, even if it says 0 grams on the food label. So these are going to be found in like prepackaged cakes and cookies, any type of like pastry. It used to be in French fries, but like I said, a lot of restaurants took that out. Just look at the food labels. Sometimes you'll be surprised that you'll find it in there. But trans fat is basically going to raise your bad cholesterol and lower your good cholesterol. So it's a double whammy of bad, which is really setting you up for heart problems later on. So we just want to try and avoid trans fat as much as possible. So let's talk about signs that you are not eating enough fat in your diet. A female athlete that is not consuming enough dietary fat can experience many different symptoms like disruptions in your menstrual cycle. Like I said, your menstrual cycle is really dependent on a lot of hormones being orchestrated just perfectly at the same time. And if you are not eating enough dietary fat for those hormones to be produced, guess what? You're going to stop menstruating. You're also going to be tired all the time. You're going to be frequently getting injuries. You can be getting sick a lot. And also you're going to be starving all the time. You're going to have GI issues like constipation. You can even have issues in your mood, like you're just angry all the time or you're sad all the time and you just can't think straight. So let me tell you my personal story with not eating enough fat. You probably knew that this was coming. So back when I was training for a figure competition and I was in the cutting phase, I had really cut my fat back too far. I was listening to the advice of some other people because at that point, when you're in it, it's very hard to coach yourself. I kept saying if I was one of my clients, I would know exactly what to tell myself. But when you're in it, it's very hard to see the forest through the trees and you wind up making all types of mistakes, which is why I highly suggest hiring a sports dietitian while you are training for something or you are trying to reach a certain goal, because it's very hard to guide yourself and make decisions that are based off of facts and not just emotions. So back when I was training for my figure competition and I was in the cutting phase, like I said, I had kept my fat back way too far and I was an angry person. I was very angry all the time. I would walk into work and I would just go, ugh. I remember one time I was at the gym, I was at the squat rack and I was actually crying with my arm on the squat rack because I was just so tired and I was hungry and I was just an emotional wreck. I was not getting my period then. I was having a lot of GI issues. I was constantly bloated and my stomach just did not feel good. And did I say that I was tired? Because I was really tired. I was also not sleeping well at night because I was really in that whole world of Red S. And you can easily get into Red S, which is relative energy deficiency in sport, when you're not eating enough fat. If you don't know anything about Red S, I'm going to link the podcast episode for you below in the show notes. And also Red S can lead to female athlete triad. And if you don't know what female athlete triad is, I'm going to link the podcast episode below for you in the show notes so you can check that out. Those are two very dangerous things for a female athlete. It's really going to start to ruin your health and your performance is just going to tank. So If you are experiencing any of these things, you really want to start looking at your dietary fat intake and make sure that you are getting enough of it. So let's talk about ways that you can ensure that you are getting in enough dietary fat over the course of the day. So I've talked before about plate models of how to balance your plate based off of what your activity level is. So if you are in an easy training day or you are on an off day, when I say an easy training day, I mean like 30 minutes or less, or it's, you're just going for a walk or doing yoga or something like that, or you're having an off day. You want to stick with 1 to 2 teaspoons of added fat per meal or snack. So some examples that you could do is just cook your chicken in some olive oil, or eat some cheese as part of your snack, or have a couple nuts on top of your yogurt. That would be fine. On a moderate training day, so this is where you're going to be exercising an hour or more, this is where you're going to add in 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of added fat per meal or snack. So some examples would be to have a handful of nuts with your snack, pour some full fat salad dressing on your salad, top your sandwich with 1/4 of an avocado, those types of things. Those are all going to help you to get in enough fat over the course of the day. On a high training day, you want to incorporate more like 2 tablespoons or more of added fat per meal or snack. So some examples are to add some avocado to your smoothie, like 1/2 of an avocado would be good. Have some salmon for dinner, put 2 tablespoons of grass-fed butter on your potato, eat chia seed pudding for breakfast. You get the idea. So one of the things that I talked about briefly was your feedlot meats versus pastured meats or grass-fed meats. And I really want to just talk about this a little bit more because this is really important. If you can afford to buy any meat that is pastured or grass-fed, and especially if you know the farmer, that is going to be the preferred option because it's going to contain less saturated fat, less cholesterol, less calories, even though you're not actually getting cholesterol from dietary cholesterol. It's going to contain less saturated fat and less calories. Plus, it's going to contain more omega-3s and it's going to have more vitamins and minerals in it. So if you can afford to buy grass-fed meat or pastured meat or, free-range eggs that are truly out on pasture, I would highly suggest doing that. Or if you can even have chickens where you live, go ahead and do that. That's a great way to get in some healthy fats into your diet. So I really hope that this episode has changed your view on dietary fats, especially if you have been restricting them. I hope you can see how important that they are. And if you have a girlfriend that is struggling with this, please invite them to my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, and the link is below for you in the show notes. Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you, encouraged you, or changed you, I would love for you to leave me a review and share it with a girlfriend who will find it helpful or inspiring. That is the best way you can thank me and help me share my knowledge so I can help more people just like you. I'm so thankful that you spent this time with me today, and I'd love to connect with you. Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, or send me a DM on Instagram, or hop on over to my website, elitenutritionperformance.com. I'll see you back here next week.